Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope you guys all had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you guys had some time to mentally relax and take a break from the markets because you sure needed it. I hope you haven't looked at futures quite yet, but we got to look at it right now, rip off the Band-Aid. Opening up quite in the red, a decent amount of selling pressure in the equity markets in the overnight session, and with Bitcoin having a dump right now as we speak below 90,000. This is kind of all happening as Japan is opening up their markets. We're seeing in the Asian markets that are opening. We'll be talking about why we're seeing this, I think, and what I think, in my opinion, is more of an algorithmic effect rather than I don't think a ton of people are currently selling everything right now on a Sunday night. So we'll be talking about that. Why I don't think this is actually necessarily a bad thing, especially as we've had a decent amount of momentum recently. We'll be talking about some important earnings that will be coming out this week, and along with specific things, looking at Palantir, looking at BMNR, all the stocks that we'll be talking about, and how the AI data center trade is working out. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. Let's try to hit 30,000 subscribers. We hit 28. We got to get 29. Thank you guys so much for watching. Now, if you pop it up on the screen here, what you can see, Palantir, it actually closed Palantir on Friday's close, basically at about 170. And we talked about this yesterday. If we saw bullishness that continued in the macroeconomic, environment, that's where you could see the recapturing of about that 170 support. If we kind of zoom out on Palantir a little bit here, there's a long consolidation phase here between the 170 and the 184 area. And that base was very nice for a consolidation, just basically zone. Palantir lost that support and kind of retested with its recent pullback that we saw in a lot of individual names. We saw the pullback, 30 to 50% in a lot of the more the speculative names. Palantir comes down here a decent bit, especially after Barry's short report, kind of came out. And you see Palantir that tests the support here at about 150s with a nice bounce right at about literally at that support level. Currently, however, what we're seeing right now as we speak is a opening up at about 163. So this is where Palantir is kind of hanging out in this limbo mode. Not a ton of trading action within the 160s. If this kind of opens up, if we see further red or further, selling pressure with the market open, that's where you can see Palantir that could get back into this consolidation zone between the 150s and the 160s. We'll see what happens. However, right now, as we speak, Palantir is opening up kind of below its 50 and 200 moving averages. So that's what we're sitting at right now. No particular headlines that are causing the specific type of sell-off that we're seeing. Talking about what is causing possibly, this is one of the main reasons that we're seeing right now. The only headline I think we can try to find, Japan's 2-year bond, it tops 1% for the first time since 2008. And as we know, people don't like that year 2008. That brings a lot of uncertainty. And what you see is a lot of people on X right now freaking out. Maybe because they all just told their family members on Thanksgiving to take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, saying that, the bottom was in, and now we're seeing some selling pressure. But what you see here, the yield reached 1.006% here. This is during the Asian trading. After we see the central bank here is weighing a rate increase at its December 18th and 19th gathering, talking about a tightening policy as inflation holds above the 2% target. So we have inflation that's a concern right here. What you're seeing is these yields that are increasing, and for some reason we're seeing this large kind of algorithmic shift with a lot of selling pressure as we speak. And specifically looking at the SPY right here, opening up down about $4, down about 0.7%. Right now trading at 678. So we'll see what happens. Because specifically with the S&P 500 index, we had a nice close here at 68.49. The S&P during this shortened holiday trading week for Thanksgiving did very, very, very well. What I do like here, and what I kind of mentioned earlier before we talk about what to expect in the markets this week, I do like actually that these markets are actually kind of opening up slightly in the red here. And that's because hopefully we can kind of reach down here, close some of these gaps that were formed, and see a little bit of some selling pressure rather than gapping up kind of right away on Monday morning, higher and higher, seeing a push here to possibly, all-time highs. A little bit of some breathing room after we've seen some momentum that's re-entered in the market. So that way, basically, in terms of a bullish perspective, long story short, we get the selling over with, try to find a bottom, and then see what that long position is. That's what my kind of take is on it. So we'll see how far this kind of the selling pressure happens, but nonetheless, I'm not doing anything specifically. Don't really care. That's SPY right here. This is all with Japan. I think this is more algorithmic. Nothing fundamentally is shifting within the equity market personally, in my opinion. Expecting the markets right here, though, we got Cyber Monday sales, labor market data, earnings. Some of the big earnings that we see from big tech companies, we got Salesforce and CrowdStrike, so we'll be keeping that on the radar. And looking at some of the data, we also have Jerome Powell is going to be coming out tomorrow to speak. In terms of the key earnings, we have on Tuesday, CrowdStrike will be releasing their earnings. We got things like, GitLab too. So some other big important stocks that will be releasing their earnings that will have a lot of attention and eyeballs looking at that. On top of that, for Thursday, you have the initial jobless claims right here. And also we see consumer sentiment preliminary. This will be very interesting in terms of December, and specifically looking at consumer credit too. What is the consumer confidence looking like, especially in this economy? Is the consumer confidence, I think if that is remaining relatively resilient, the markets will see that as bullish in terms of, someone's got to keep spending in order for these companies, and can the consumer still afford to spend these prices that these basically products have increased from inflation over the last few years? Is the consumer resilient? That's what we'll be looking at in terms of consumer sentiment. Looking at other things, cryptocurrency. Whoa. Big dump on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is currently, as we speak, this is very volatile, so this can move at any direction right after this video uploads, but currently right now at 86,000, losing that $90,000 floor. You can see here, Bitcoin just literally fell off the map as those Asian markets opened up. And you see Ethereum right here that has lost 3,000. No. These are really important areas for Bitcoin and Ethereum in terms of a long position, but now we're back here at 28.28. So we'll take it as we have it, because we have to, in just terms of the reality of the market. Nonetheless, here you see Bitcoin loses about 5% on the day as crypto erases 150 billion from its market cap. No news at all for crypto, just about 600 plus million in liquidations. So mass liquidations have returned. I don't understand, how do these traders not understand from October 10th kind of black swan event that we saw, the largest crypto liquidation? Don't you think they would have already learned from that? It's only been a little over a month, and here we are sitting with some huge liquidations across the board here. It's kind of causing this cascade event of a lot of selling pressure. Why have we been talking about crypto and Ethereum is, of course, with BMNR. Now, BMNR currently, as we speak, this close at Friday's close. These closes look so good above their 50-day and their 200-day, closed here at about $34. What you can see here opening up in the overnight session at 30.52. This is a very, very important kind of technical area for BMNR itself, because at 30.53 right here, this is a key support area. If we just look at the year-to-date chart on BMNR, after Tom Lee had his involvement, we saw a huge squeeze here, and then kind of a large sell-off. BMNR trying to price out where it needs to trade within. It had a decent amount of consolidation, actually at 30 basically. So I think holding that $30 level of support, if we kind of zoom into more recent time here, is going to be important for BMNR. However, we'll see what happens with how this kind of occurs, how this trades here, especially opening up underneath some of these indicators right now as we speak. One thing that I do like, though, Tom Lee staying on top of it, of course. We know, obviously he's been accumulating Ethereum at a rapid pace, now has over 3% of the supply towards his 5% goal with the power of numbers in terms of the circulating Ethereum. But he mentions here is that the list of institutions building on Ethereum are the vulnerable and elite of Wall Street, saying here that we have Amundi, if I'm saying that right, Europe's largest asset manager, launching a tokenized fund on Ethereum. That is a 2.2 trillion euro asset manager just launched a token fund on Ethereum. So it is great to see here talking about tokenization. I don't think it's a matter of if, more of a matter of when, and how that effect is going to have on Ethereum, and especially with crypto's price, as tokenization could be the next leg up for crypto. What is the next improvement within its own technology? There it possibly is. We see big key players like Robinhood, things like that, getting into tokenization, and they're kind of the first ones to take the risk on these new products being launched and these new type of ways to trade. So could trading eventually become 24/7? I think definitely. I think it's heading that way right now as we speak. Talking about some of the other stocks, though, the AI data center trade, these things are kind of opening up across the board. You see Nebius down here, down about $4. CoreWeave down about $2. I ran at 241. Cypher, I've been really bullish on this recently. Cypher is right here, opening up at 1873. So we'll see what happens here, what kind of resiliency we will see with this. I mean, you got Hood at 124, SoFi, another interesting one at 2887. So that's where we're sitting at. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Peace out, take care, and I hope everybody has a decent Monday, depending on trading and how the market operates.